Hey guys, new video here. Really excited to talk about a new form of juicing. Before I get into the main stuff, I have to talk about the history of juicing and how we used to do it, the temp chain setup, which still works. And then I'm going to talk about the new method. And it's kind of important because you will get a comparative analysis of like why is the new version so strong compared to what we used to have. So very quickly, before we use a Solstice Virgil, and what that would do is by putting it on 33% slower effect, and to not go into too many numbers, you needed 45 additional curse effect of your temp chains to get 4 times the effects on you. So what you would do is you get a Helmet Chant with 30% curse effect. You might get a quality curse on hit setup with your Herald of Lightning, and the curse on hit gem quality would give you 11%, and then you just had to get 4%. And usually that was made with a Conqueror's Potency Jewel, very easy to get, or other ways if you were like, some ascendancies, some of the items had curse effect, but extremely easy. You can even go Glorious of a Vanity Jewel if you wanted to, if you want to take off the Solstice. But basically you were using a few things: Shackles of the Wretched, Comb's Roots, so that's 2 slots gone, Solstice Virgil in your amulet slot, right? And keep in mind that the Herald of Thunder setup was a 3-link, right, in your gloves, and it had to be in your gloves. And additionally, you'd use things like Headhunter so that your Headhunter buffs would be multiplied by 4 as well. So every buff on you was multiplied by 4, and also the bad effects too. So what that meant is things like your Blade Vortex, if you're using that, was 4 times longer. If you were using like all of your all the effects, there's any effect on you, okay, positive or negative, was essentially buffed by 4 times for any modifiers. So 80-second Headhunter buffs, flasks lasting 4 times longer, incredibly strong. And it was like the de facto way to farm maps because you were going so fast. You could make a stricter loop filter, and all this led to a very fun mapping farming playstyle. The temp chain setup, what are you kind of giving up for that? Well, you're giving up, like I said, the gloves and the boot slot, and then to some extent your links, right? But your time on the temp chains was usually between 10 and 14 seconds. And this is actually important later on, because you had about 10 to 14 seconds, depending on what you were using, to pick up loot and then clear the next pack, so that your Herald of Thunder could tick, 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 with its lightning strikes to put the curse back on you. Okay. So that's the old method. Everyone pretty much knows the old method. Not much to say there. Well, recently, this patch came out like a night ago, or for me, it's like technically two calendar nights ago. And we have this little line here, and increased effect of auras on you modifiers no longer apply to enemy debuff auras. And this is important because people were using things like Purposeful Harbinger to really jack up all the aura effects on them. And surprisingly, there's a lot of things that count as aura effects, right? And one of those things is the Shaper's Presence, because the way that they nerf the temp chains this league is, instead of getting like with the amulet getting 45 curse effect, with the amulet you need like 175 curse effect, right? And that was still doable with the new cluster jewels. There's a lot of like Dark Intentions with like a little 5 or 6 node, and you could get 175 pretty easily, especially if you're an occultist, because you had 25% from the ascendancy. So that was like kind of annoying, but it was definitely doable, right? And if you want a really fat Glorious Vanity, that was also purchasable as well. Or you can start dividing and hope that you hit a good one. Well, now let me explain this a little bit, because the basics of this revolves around a few things. And the first one is going to be Purposeful Harbinger. So what this does is this allows you to have 10% increased effective auras on you for each herald affecting you. Okay, there are 5 heralds in the game. You can apply all 5 of them, so each one of these notables, and they stack, is 50% increased effect of auras on you. If you search the skill tree for aura effect, there's nothing that comes close to that, right? For one notable, right? There's the thing on the top left, there's like things in the charisma, near the sovereignty, whatever. Those things all suck. These things, you can stack 6 of these on the Voices jewel, and you will have, if you stack 6 of these, you'll have 300% effect of auras. Okay. And now what we're going to look at is, if you have 300% effective auras, the Shaper's Presence is also an aura. Tailwind is also an aura. So now you don't have to go temp chains at all. all the bad things about temp chain setups and the annoyances are gone. And what happens is this effect that was nerfed to 20%, you're going to multiply that by 4, right? So it's 80%. Now the slow is capped at 75 because thanks to, I think it was Gouda made a video like years ago, and if you get to 100%, the monsters don't, like for example for temp chains, like the monsters wouldn't move, and if you got to 100%, effects would never expire, so you would never lose any of your buffs, okay, or debuffs. So they capped it at 75. So at 75, it's just like before, everything lasts 4 times longer. And what that means is it's even better than the temp chains, not just because you get tailwind, which you couldn't get with Combs, Roots, and Self Curse because it will bring your action speed down. You can also get Rampage gloves and or whatever other gloves that you want. And additionally, it's even crazier because there's a lot of loot in these Delirium maps. And think about it like this. When you were playing Self Curse, you had between 10 and 14 seconds. That blue temp chains icon had a timer underneath it. And that timer already has the temp chains curse effect, like the effect of it into that timer. So if it said 14 seconds, it was actually 14 seconds, right? 10 seconds was actually 10 seconds. That's not that long. With this, the Shaper's Presence affects itself. So Shaper's Presence is 10 seconds. It gets multiplied by 4. You now have 40 seconds of an effect that slows down all the effects on you. So you have like basically way longer to loot and take your time before things will fall off or falling off on accident because you're waiting around for things. It is truly insane. And so with this, we're going to put on Tailwind Boots, okay? And the 300% effect of our auras with 6 Purposeful Harbingers is going to affect all of our effects, including the Tailwind, which is now from 10% base, right? If you crit recently, to 40% action speed. 40% action speed is in itself worthy of a nerf. Like I wasn't going to be surprised that they would just nerf that mid-league. So a lot of us held off on trying this stuff because, well, there's other annoyances too, which I'll talk about in a second, but it just seemed like a little bit too OP, right? Which it is. And then you get a free Rampage without having to weapon swap or do anything weird like belt swap. And so you got a lot more freedom and a lot more power, right? Because the Combs, Roots, and the Shackles of the Wretched are terrible items like for juicers. But now you aren't constrained by those anymore. And additionally, we have a Bex post that was from actually 6 days ago, but I didn't learn about this until like 24 hours ago. Bex said, we are aware of this, but we don't want to fix it yet as it will break too many people's builds. Have fun with it until next league, ! So this is confirmation from Grinding Gear members that they are not going to nerf it to until next league. And then once again, the edit here. So it was the reason a lot of us didn't play it as well earlier on is because the negative effects were also affecting it, okay? And what are negative effects? Negative effects are the grasping hands from the Delirium that will actually just perma-slow your character or lock you in place for a few seconds. Any of the ground degens, lightning ground, fiery ground, caustic ground, the chill ground, the zombie tar, Cyrus puddles, it would annihilate your character. I was watching some streams that had like the setup going and they were godlike, and then they'd hit one of these degen grounds and it was hilarious, right? It would obliterate the character a lot of times. So that was super annoying, and once again, that's why I showed the patch notes. After tomorrow's patch, the Friday patch, they said it'd come out before the end of the work week. The increased effective auras on modifiers no longer apply to enemy debuff auras. So everything that like kind of counterbalanced it or kind of made it balanced in a sense is being removed. And that's hilarious because it's not hard to get this. People are rolling these themselves. People are telling me like a few hundred alt regals to get something like this. And you're gonna do a Purposeful Harbinger. I have a little skeleton of a tree that I'm gonna use. This skill tree is like level 51. Okay, this is just a skeleton of what I would go and fill out from there. So you see in the top left here and the top right, that is the voices cluster, right? I bought 2 voices for 5 exalts each. They are the 5 nodes, so they're not that good. So you have a couple wasted nodes here. So if you look right here, these 3 nodes in the top left and the top right, those blue jewel sockets are going to be jewels, medium cluster jewels that are going to have Purposeful Harbinger, and for me, Heraldry. I really like Heraldry, but you can also go a node called, what is it called? Endbringer, right? If you want a little bit of flat damage, because remember, all of these are times by 5, so you get 125% increased damage for each herald affecting you. You have 5 of those, it gets pretty crazy. But the Heraldry, the effect, because of the skill I'm going to be using, I really like the increased effect of this. I like the reduced mana reservation because it gives me having reduced mana reservation into like the single digits for each aura allows me to reserve 50% auras and additional 25% auras. So for example, thinking of like hatred, thinking of things like additional 25%, I could do like blood and sand, sorry, not blood and sand, flesh and stone, and even things that like aren't really auras, right? Things that aren't auras at all. Aspect of the spider, maybe. Arctic armor, I don't know if that works. It's like these things that aren't auras, but they are very strong in their own if you can add them to your character for little cost. Okay, so your options are, you have to get the Purposeful Harbinger. Purposeful Harbinger is number one, and then from there you can choose Endbringer or Heraldry. Completely up to you. It's very important to know that this build is like this right here. The Heraldry and the Purposeful Harbinger stuff is not an actual build in itself. It is a mechanic. The same way that Temp Chains, Shackles of the Wretched, Combs, Roots, Souls of Vigil is not a build in itself. They're just three things that enable a mechanic. Okay, so don't look to like copy exactly what someone else is doing. All you gotta do, really, the baseline is get 2 voices. Okay. The expensive ones are going to be the ones that have like 1 or 3 passive sockets. Those are extremely expensive. I cannot afford those, so I had to buy the 5 node ones. And then even with those, you're going to get I'm going to get 6 of those medium cluster jewels. Once again, for me, the mandatory one is Purposeful Harbinger on each of those, and the second one can be anything you want, right? I'm gonna go Heraldry because that's what I like for my build, and then that's it. If you want a jewel socket, you see the red jewels in this picture. The red jewels are basically for variety. So if you're life based, like I'm gonna go life based to start, those jewels could become regular jewels, what abyssal jewels, normal jewels, what have you, even like unique jewels if you need the slots for that. If you're ES, the offshoot that you see coming off of these jewels, those are a node that gives 100 ES if you want to go the ES or the low life route, right? Low life is very powerful with the juicer setups, right? But you don't have to. I'm just gonna start with light base and see how it goes from there. It also saves me 12 points overall because I don't need to get those extension points or buy those jewels, so saves me some trades as well. So if you can get a jewel socket for some variety, right? Now, going from here, I am going elementals, and the reason I'm going elementals is because I get, even like I said, with the heroes hitting the single digit reservations, I will have a lot more flexibility on whatever auras that I choose to use. Okay, and also it has the Jolum nodes, which surprisingly, the Jolum's buffs count as auras somehow. They're an effect on you, so those effects are going to be quadrupled as well. And so once you get, all this revolves around getting, let me just control F this, Purposeful Harbinger, right? All this revolves around getting this on all the medium cluster jewels, 300% increased effective auras, because that's enough. It's not just for the auras. The first thing you're hitting is the slow cap on the Headhunter buffs and other things, and the slow cap, once again, is 75%. So that's easy to get with 6 of these. And let's take a look at what else it would affect. So if we're going to take a look at monster modifiers, if you're going to use a Headhunter and steal the buffs, look at this. Look at all these auras. These are prefixes, right? And so you're going to multiply these by 4. You can look this up on the wiki. It's just completely ridiculous. It's almost like having like inspired learning as well, right? But you can also use inspired learning if you want. Multiplying these auras by 4 times is, I don't even know. I think it's like so crazy. And then alongside that, let's take a look at hatred, right? So hatred, instead of having 26% physical added damage, you're going to have like 104% of physical as extra cold, right? More cold damage from that. It's a double dip, because now that you've added it, you're going to multiply it. So 4 times 19, that is 40 plus 36. That's 76% more cold damage for one aura that you're going to put on, right? And let's take a look at things like Whale Grace. Now, Whale Grace, a lot of builds don't have the dex to get like a really high level one, but it doesn't matter, because when you multiply even the level 1 by 4, you're hitting the dodge cap of 75%. And remember, this is going to get extended by 4 times. So the base duration is 6 seconds, 24 seconds of 75% dodge cap, right? To a lesser extent, Whale Haste and all that stuff. So it becomes, you can kind of see what's going on here. Multiplying things by 4 when they are tagged as an aura is completely ridiculous, and it allows for some really strong juicing of maps, 5-orb delirium maps, etc. It's going to be nice. I personally am going to try out Blade Vortex first to to see how it goes. And right now, for example, if you look at my gear, like the only thing I really had to buy was the 2 voices jewels here. These were at the time that I bought them, like about 36 hours ago, they were 5 exalts each for the 5 small passive ones, and then these jewels were about 200 C each, so nothing too crazy for day 10, 11 of the league. The other stuff I just like had on hand, right? I'm gonna use a goal with Blade Vortex AoE, you know, that was pretty cheap. Solstice Virgil, this one I bought for 7.5 exalt. You know, this is a 50C quiver, but you know, you don't have to go BB. You can really go anything you want. People are going elementals, people are going Jardian, people are going Scion. There's so much variety and versatility with the build that you really got. All you gotta do is get the 2 voices. And there's even things you can do with large cluster jewels if you can't afford the voices that make it a little bit more jank. But all you gotta do is get the Purposeful Harbinger. Okay, get some of those for whatever your desired effect is, and that is the mandatory one. The second one, once again, you don't have to go heraldry. The one that gives the 25% damage per herald is also fine. And once you get these things, that's it. That's actually it, right? Because like the Solstice Virgil is for the Solstice Virgil, like you'll get that too, but it's really a Headhunter specific item. Because if you're gonna go ahead and get the Solstice Virgil, you might as well just save it for a Headhunter, right? Because yeah, I don't know, like the Solstice Virgil will make all the effects slower on you, but without the Headhunter, it is much less, right? So I would say get the jewels first, then get the Solstice Virgil, and then from there really try to get the Headhunter if you can. Okay, so sorry, I misspoke a little bit. This is what you need. Sorry, this bottom column right here is all you need. From there, it is a you know, the builds are just whatever you want them to be. Okay, so right here I'm gonna mouse over these, but once again, Purposeful Harbinger is the only required node on the medium cluster jewels. Okay, the difference between 4 and 5 node doesn't matter, because the 4 and 5 node is just one travel. Like for example, let me bring up this picture again right here. So you see this picture, the 5 nodes over here on the right side, you see how you don't have to take that 5th node. It's exactly the same as a 4 node, because you're not forced to take it, because you just swing around the other side. So don't worry if it's 4 or a 5 node. It shouldn't add any additional price. And the implicit doesn't matter, because there's like, I think there's like 2 different implicits, but you're not really taking it for the implicits, you're taking it for the notables. Okay, so that's about it. And what else is there? I think I've gone over everything. It's gonna be super OP, and yeah, and that's gonna be it's probably gonna be the meta defining like map farming delirium running build of the league, and it's gonna be very fun. Okay guys, thanks for watching my video. Okay, bye guys, bye.